You're listening to the Light Novel Podcast. Visit us online at lightnovelpodcast.com. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Light Novel Podcast. Tonight, we have a special guest, so it's a very special episode. We have Alejandro de Vicente. I'm sorry, I totally butchered that. Even after I practiced it with him, we're going to call him Alex because that's what he goes by, and it makes it a lot easier for all of us. He is coming to us from Tentai Books, the new publisher that materialized just a couple weeks ago and is already bringing us a brand new slice of life title and a fantasy title that should be coming out in a little bit. So we're going to be talking to Alex about his background with light novels, what's brought him to create this company, and what we can look forward to in the future. So Alex, thank you so much for joining us.
And thank you for inviting me. I'm actually very happy to be here. So it is a good opportunity.
Excellent. We're happy to have you. Joining us tonight, we've got Bio Gundam.
I'm shocked that this company isn't called Hentai Books.
Oh, jeez, you just had to go there. Jean-Luc.
Good afternoon.
Mirage is listening, but unfortunately his audio isn't working, but he's here in spirit. He even typed good evening in the chat. That's
Listen,
awesome.
he's astral projecting using like ancient Germanic sorcery and runes.
Yeah, there you go. And we have Terrence.
What's up again?
All right. So we're just going to jump right into it. So, Jean-Luc, I think you had the first question there you want to ask.
Oh, I'll do the honor. Good. Okay, so first question. Is there a reason behind the name Tentai as a company name? And is there a specific anecdote that led to choosing that name?
Well, it's sort of a long story. The actual company name, like the Tentai is just a commercial name that we use. The actual company name, it's Asteroid Books Sociedad Limitada. And Asteroid comes from my very initial intention of wanting to do Chinese content too. Although that ended up in nothing. And it was because the Chinese and the Japanese share a legend, which is the legend of the Blue Dragon, which is the Asteroid Dragon, and that's why
Oh yeah,
like
one of the
story.
four guardian spirits of Kyoto. They have that as well. You have the Azure Dragon.
Okay.
Exactly. So sort of going along those lines, but then I didn't realize at the moment that I would have to fight very harshly with the SEO in terms of, getting first place in Google, because when you search for Asteroid, the first 10 results is just Microsoft's, Microsoft.
True.
So I got advice to, you should just look for another name. And then I thought, well, I mean, I've been translating in many fan translation groups, and most of them have been related to celestial bodies in a way, moon, the daybreak in a way, and many others. So in the end, I went with Tentai because it just was a description of where I worked at, and it combines all of those names of the groups that I was in at some point. That most of them were related to celestial bodies, which in this case it is like celestial body, the translation in Japanese.
Oh,
All right. Fantastic. So now, I'm going to jump in here and we should have started off by saying, Alex, you should introduce yourself to us. And what is your background and what brought you to create this company?
Like what brought me to novels, right?
Creating Tentai. Yeah. What led you to this moment in your life?
It goes, it's a little bit long, but I'll try to summarize. When I was 16, I watched my first anime, pretty late, but still. It was Bleach, if I remember correctly. No, false. It was Ouran High School. There you go. It was Ouran High School. I loved it.
Ouran High School
Great
Host
anime.
Club?
Yes, indeed.
I've got the manga behind me on my shelf.
It's a great story, actually. I have just watched the anime, but back in the day, I loved it. I got hooked. Then I watched all the shonen except One Piece because 1,000 chapters, please. And
It's only
I got
halfway
interested.
done.
Yeah, basically. And I got interested in learning Japanese then. But it was a long road because, I want to learn Japanese and then actually get into it. It took me like 2 years to actually get into the language because I was lazy. And that was when I was, like 17, 18, something along those lines. I studied myself for a year. And then the rest of until now, I've been in classes, but I don't do classes anymore. I already have the highest degree, at least in terms of official degrees, even though it's not the highest in the standard for Japanese, but still I got the N1. And then I mean the reason I got into translating was because at first I loved anime. I wanted to understand, but then I discovered, genre completely different from light novels, which is visual novels. And I discovered them, and I wanted to translate this light novel that I loved so much. I didn't understand a single word, but I knew that it was good. I like the artist a lot, which is Akatsuki no Goei. And I ended up doing it. It's just that things happen, and I never was able to release it. But yeah, and I mean, I started working for companies then because why not? If if I can use this to get some cash, then why not, right?
Fair enough.
And I went to some companies here and there. I was in J Novel at some point, but not as a translator. This was when I was young, when I was 18. I didn't know any Japanese back then. I worked as QA at the moment, worked on a couple of things, and then just disappeared. Uh, and then, yeah, as a translator, mostly in Cherokee games, which is basically hentai games. These kinds of games that you can read in 2 hours, quick fab, and there you go. They're good games, but they are designed for this single purpose. And that's most of my background. I've been sole press for a bit, but I haven't completed my the thing I worked on, so that's a shame. But it was because of I have a frail health, so I couldn't really complete what I was assigned to. But yeah, I've been here and there basically. And at some point I just I have all this cash that I'm not going to use, which is the cash that I earned while I was translating these things. And I said maybe I should just do a company, like out of the blue one day. Maybe I should. And at first it was some sort of a joke, joke with my friends, but then it got really serious. I started thinking about it, and I wanted to do visual novels at first, specifically otomes, but I didn't get lucky. Like long story short, I didn't get lucky with negotiations in general. That market is oversaturated. It's filled already with companies. I would have if I would have gotten anything, it wouldn't have been anything that would have liked to worked on or that was good by my standards. So I just gave up on the idea. And after some months, then I got someone recommended, well, you should maybe just do light novels. And my experience with light novels in terms of translation was a pathetic attempt at trying Elf Tensei 1 month into my learning experience in Japanese. So you can already imagine how that went. It never got released, thankfully. And I mean, I've read them before. I had read them before in English, but never. Well, I had read in Japanese too. It's just that counted with my two hands, and that's it. But I have read some of them in Japanese, like Yo-Yo Senki, for example. That's how I got into them actually. And I thought, well, maybe I should do light novels. I mean, the market is still, in my opinion, it is not overexploited at all. It is still very open. Uh, and I was welcomed. I tried a couple companies and overlap, which I'm guessing you'll ask me about overlap later, but overlap was very welcoming to us, and
A little bit.
I appreciate the opportunity
Nice.
that they gave to us, and that's how everything started basically.
All right. So then, so now you are publishing in both Spanish and in English.
Yes.
Yeah. So now, what's the Spanish market like then for light novels? Like when you were putting this together, was it your primary thought was, okay, I'm going after the English market, but because I'm in Spain, I can go for the Spanish, or was it the vice versa?
I want to ask you a quick question because I've like heard in Latin America that anime and manga is like incredibly popular. Is it just as popular in mainland Spain?
No, it's pretty niche. I mean, depends. If we talk about anime and manga, it is huge. Anything outside of that is sort of niche yet. I think it's just because the light novel market is non-existent in Spanish. Like the number of light novels that have been released by Spanish publishers, I can count them with one hand, which are Re:Zero, Sword Art Online, and Goblin Slayer, and that's it. Those are the only light novels that exist translated.
Man, they only have like one good light novel, and that's Goblin Slayer. Man, what a shame.
Hey man, I like Re:Zero. Back off.
El Goblin Slayer Exterminator.
Taking those things aside, it's just that there's no light novels translated. So the issue with Spanish is that it's a gamble right now because we don't have data from other companies because there are only like 2 light novels in Spanish. So I cannot really tell you, hey, I have an idea of how it works. No, it's just I wanted to create a trend in Spanish. My first idea was English. I'll admit. I have experience with the English market more than the Spanish one. Like everything I worked on has been in English, and I know how the English audience works more or less. I know what they want with the physicals. I know what quality they aim for, and with the Spanish market, it's not exactly like that. I want to apply the same English concepts. It's gonna be a slow road, a slow journey, but I'm trying to get to the same level. And the same goes with my choices. I think the choices that I made for the first releases were more tailored towards the English market than the Spanish one. Because if I wanted the Spanish market to resonate with them, I could just pick an isekai and be done with it. I didn't really want to do that with the English one. And yeah, I just my idea was to do English at first, but then I thought, I mean, if I'm doing a publisher from Spain and I'm Spanish and I'm not doing Spanish, it would be weird to say the least. And yeah,
it seems like a missed opportunity. Yeah.
Yeah, especially because most of Japanese publishers would be like, wait, you're in Spain and don't do Spanish. What? They would be confused. And yeah, I thought, why not trying, and right now it's just experimenting, we're going to see where this leads to and hopefully to somewhere good. And yeah, I'll admit my first idea was to please the English market with my choices and my decision making, but mainly because I have experience in the English market more than with the Spanish one.
Right. Huh. That's interesting. I mean, I had no idea the Spanish market was that small in terms of light novels. I wouldn't have thought it was only 3 titles solely.
Yeah, and pretty expensive too, actually. Pretty expensive.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like one novel here would cost $20, 20 euros. That is insane.
20 euros?
Yeah.
Holy.
Actually, where I come from, most light novels cost at least $15 to $25, depending. Like on special, maybe $10, $12.
Yeah, but I mean, admittedly, in Canada, I mean, you're looking at about $15 to $17, but that's Canadian dollars. A euro is worth about $1.50 Canadian dollars, so that would be like spending $20 to $30.
Yeah.
Per light novel for me, which that seems pretty pricey.
Part of the reason I understand the books that they release in Spanish, there's only 3 books, but the ones that they released are very high quality, like miles away from what the English side releases. I think they are way better, but I don't think it just justifies the price. Like I wouldn't pay personally $20 to buy a light novel in a comic shop. I would rather just buy them in English, maybe.
Right.
I mean, for $20, if it's like $20 a fucking novel, I expect them to be like hardback special editions.
They're not hardback, but they are very close. Like they are soft cover, but they are like the paper is very high quality and like everything is high quality, very high quality. Yeah.
Right. That's interesting, huh? So then, Terrence, you were wondering about if they've given any thought to other mediums, right?
Sure. And, you mentioned visual novels and kind of trying to get into that. But also, I was wondering if almost every light novel publisher has branched out into manga. I know you guys are just starting out, but is that something you would pursue in the future or not?
Maybe. I would never pursue visual novels. They're just a pain in the head, a pain in the ass to work on. After discovering what working on a light novel entails, which is still a lot, but it's not the same commitment. Would Tentai won't work on mangas? I had the idea on the table, but not soon. Like if we do it, it's not gonna be anytime soon. I'd rather just do light novels well, instead of like branching into other things, because I don't really have experience in manga personally, and at least when I entered light novels, I knew what to do, more or less. I knew how to produce a light novel, quote unquote. I know the process. I know how things work in general, but it doesn't work the same in manga. I don't have experience in manga.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't like to go in blind, first of all. And the second is that it's just overloaded with companies already. There are other companies, bigger companies, that already take every manga in existence. So maybe if we do manga, we do like what? One manga every million years, because it belongs to the series or whatever, but do not expect us taking manga anytime soon. It's just
Right.
something I would rather release something I know how to release and I know I can provide with quality, instead of something I would go in blind and knowingly. So
I'll just add something that Mirage was writing on Discord that had to do with the pricing discussion earlier. Like he says that in Germany, the price doesn't seems to be that much different from in Spain, and that in his opinion, like what creates those high stake price is the fact that the translation costs a lot. It's a fixed cost, and it's divided between less people than in North America, where you have a lot of buyer potential.
Yeah, I mean, I understand well, it's true. Obviously, you have, when you do something in German, I mean, you've pretty much got Germany, right? Whereas when you're doing English or you're doing Spanish, obviously you have a multitude of countries that are primarily speakers of those languages, right? So that's where I think the Spanish thing kind of surprises me, because I'm like, you've got a way bigger market than if you were just doing German or you were just doing, you know what I mean? But again, maybe it's because of where they're located. Maybe, well, we don't know what their business model is like.
I mean, there are differences. Like the issue is that Spanish people, as far as I know, prefer physicals over digitals every single way. Like I'm not saying everyone prefers it, but I realized that most of the people would prefer physicals. And that's
if they're such high quality, if they're made of such high quality materials, I'm not surprised.
Yeah, of course, but I mean, I could price them the same as some of the other novels, but it wouldn't be. I don't know. I just think it wouldn't be fair. It's not what it should be priced at. But then again, it's my personal take on the matter. Yeah, I mean, English. It's just that English audience is more open to digital versions of the books, unlike Spanish ones. So, I mean, like I said, we're still experimenting.
Well, I also think it depends, how tech savvy is the Spanish market is. So no, I don't think tech savvy. I think tech savvy is the word. How tech savvy is Spain, compared to other countries.
I mean, in terms of people who read books.
Yeah, people who regularly use computers and stuff like that, and because I feel like for more English speakers, because most people who speak English live in a lot very industrialized or very tech heavy countries. We get used to it, but I just want to wonder what is it like in Spain as far as technology use is going.
Oh no, I think it's the same as in the US. It's just that here we have how to explain, the market and the vision that people have over anime is still, in my opinion, in many ways backwards. So Like everyone just is like, oh, you like anime, that's creepy, that kind of attitude towards the whole thing, and it just shies a lot of people away.
The other attitude is like, oh, it's animated, it means it must be for kids, or because it's
Yeah.
animated, it means you can't learn anything from it.
Yeah, exactly. We still have that attitude over it, and most of the people use phones for social media, Instagram, and it's not widespread to use them for anything other than that, except for reading mangas. But that's a rare exception. I think South American countries, Latin American countries, to be exact, they use more the phone to read light novels than Spain. Like, yeah, and 100-fold. Like here, it's just that the market is very conservative, and people prefer their physicals. People know what they want. Uh, in other areas, at least, we don't know yet in light novels. But as far as I'm seeing, it seems the same thing. People prefer physicals, so that's how it works.
Right.
Hmm.
Interesting. All right. So now, Mirage had been was gonna wondering. So right now, you're launching 2 titles. We're kind of wondering like what's your optimum timeline in terms of your translation capacity? Like, are you looking to release them at a certain time frame, or sort of what? How do you see the pace of releases on your books?
I mean, this first one has been an exception. We took 4 months from start to finish because we're still finishing things, but it took around 4 months. But it's because we're still getting used to the pace. If I was led to do only translation, because I do more things than just translation, but if I didn't do
Yeah.
typesetting and the images, I could easily do 1 volume per month in terms of translation. And then I guess if I had other people working for us in those areas, then we could do 1 volume every 1 month and a half, let's say. If everyone sticks to the deadlines, which are not draconian in my opinion. I do have experience with what works and what doesn't work with deadlines. But yeah, it would be around, let's say, 2 months to be more exact on this matter.
Yeah.
But if I was left to translate full time, and didn't have to go to college and that stuff, I would probably do 1 volume per month right now. So you're the only translator of the company? Yes, I am. Well, in terms of English, we have another Spanish translator, but yes, I'm the only English translator. Yes.
Well, I'll add a question to that. Like, since we're on the publishing side of the topic,
Yeah.
what importance do you grant to the proofreading? Like, do you have something set up in place, or is it just the translator that goes back afterward to reread it, or do you have specific set of people proofreading what you translate?
I do have 2 people proofreading the text in English. Like our team in English is me, the editor, and the 2 QAs, if you can call them like that. They are QAs, right? Proofreaders.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've been a proofreader. I've worked in JNO as proofreader at some point, so I more or less know. I know what the standard is. I know JNovo has a very high standard. I think they should be taken as the standard of quality. And I just worked as proofreader, so I do give it a very big, weight. It is very important. It's not just checking for grammar mistakes. That's a misconception people have. It's like you have to check the typesetting issues too, if you can. If there are any issues with the images too, that kind of stuff. Like
Right.
it is important, and the people we have are in sync with me with what I think. And yes, we proofread everything, and it is one of my priorities. So yes.
Yeah, I guess I'll just follow up on that previous one because I had a question, which was, should we expect any new licenses anytime soon? I mean, not like immediately, but maybe before the end of the year or early into next year.
I'm gonna say the socket answer, which is if the novels do good, if the ones we have, if we see that the ones we have sell well, then yes, of course. I have some ideas lined up.
Okay.
Of course, if they don't work so well, then we have ideas. It's just that it will take more time. But yeah, I mean,
Okay.
as long as it doesn't put me in a strain, because I'll have to bring another translator soon. but I just don't want to be in a strain personally, and I want to take it easy. But yeah, I mean, both volumes so far have one has 2 volumes, third pending. One has 3 volumes, third pending, but it has been announced. And if we catch up at some point, then we will need more series to make up for it. So yes, the idea is yes to have new licenses by the end of the year if everything goes as we hope it goes.
All right.
So then, Bio, you were wondering, like, when it comes to where you're getting the pool of translators or hoping to.
Will you hire or use fans translations for your works? And if you're planning to use fans translations, will you at least like clean them up and also credit the people who did them?
Would I use fan translations? Depends. First, I would have to know that it's good, like the translation is faithful to what the text
Well, that's
says.
what I mean. Like, if it's a really good translation and it's like there's a few mistakes, like if it's like all it needs is like a little like touching up, and you like, would you use that and like credit the people who's like, hey, these are the people who did it, so
yeah, why not? I don't see any issue with that, honestly. Yeah, I would definitely use it.
I think it's because like I think he's thinking like because J Novel Club did that with like Invaders of the Rokujoma. I believe they did it with one other series as well.
They did.
So and it was really unheard of. I mean, until J Novel Club did it. So I guess I mean your guys are brand new. You're eventually, hopefully, going to do well enough that you're looking to expand. That's I think that's always sort of part of the fan community is that question. Like, will fan translators, if they've done a great job, will they continue to have an opportunity to be recognized and even move to that more quote unquote legitimate side of the business?
Yeah, because I feel like I feel like fan translators are like some of like the unsung heroes of the community, because like these people like translate shit that's some of the stuff that I've seen like fans translated, like I haven't even heard of the stuff, or if I have, like I haven't been able to find like an official translation. So like the fan, like the people who do this are the unsung heroes of the community.
Yeah, I mean, I was a fan translator at some point, so I would say yes. I do understand how it feels to get your work recognized by someone and being paid for it. And if I do have the chance, and if the translation that already exists is good, I would have no issues taking it. Of course, it would need editing and blah, 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 the classic editing, proofreading. The stuff, how it goes. But
yes,
I mean,
self-explanatory.
Yeah, the TLDR is that I would have no issues. I've been a fan translator too, and yes, I mean, I would definitely do it if it's good. Yes.
Now, about like so obviously you've got these two titles. So now one is a slice of life title, the other is a fantasy. Now they're both from Overlap, and you said they're newer titles. They've only got 2 volumes so far, with third ones kind of on the way.
Yeah.
Now, are you looking? You said Overlap's been really good and open to you guys. Would that be a relationship you'd continue to work on first before you'd approach other Japanese publishers, or like or is that sort of still down the road? You haven't even gotten that far yet.
Oh no, like I haven't more or less an idea. The issue with these things is that I mean, it's all politics in the end. It's part of how politics work in his field of work. I think they've been very generous to us. I think we will stay with them if they allow us to keep working on their titles. Do we have any idea of working with our publishers? Yes, of course. But without leaving Overlap behind. Like we want to do, if we want to work with others, we want to make at least a progression. I want to do it slowly. But if I'm going to keep working for Overlap, I know what everyone says, the issues with Overlap, which is their series get axed without notice. The titles I chose, I'm pretty sure they won't get axed anytime soon. And we ask them monthly, how's it going, this and that.
Oh, so they're actually really communicative in terms of how the books are doing and what their feelings are about how the series are doing?
Well, they don't explain exactly how they are doing, but they do, if you ask them, are there any plans for a third volume? Then, they say yes, they say no. Other times it's just through the author's way of communication. They use ways of communication, the authors, and and I keep them. I'm more or less updated on how things go, and of course we study the sales of the books in Japan, because what matters in the end is that the books sell well in Japan, so they get continued support, and releases.
Right.
And both of these, as far as we know, are very popular over there right now. They are selling very well,
Good.
and that's why I wouldn't be worried.
Yeah, well, I know Welcome to the Diner of the Exiles has actually got a manga already started for it.
It does, actually, yes, indeed. And well, both of them could get a manga. Like the one that sold better, as far as I know, is Side Character.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Like that sold massively. It's it came at the same time as Imosa. People in Japan were like, "Oh, this seems awfully similar to Imosa," and then they realized it was actually pretty decent. Like that it had nothing to do with Imosa in the end, and it was something original, unexpected, and people liked the idea. So it sold very well. The third one is coming for sure. It's just that the author said so. Like the author said in one of his Naruto posts that the third one has been confirmed. It's just that it'll probably take longer because maybe he's busy, or maybe Tomari is doing other stuff right now and cannot take care of the images. But yeah, I mean, most of these things you can tell by the author or the sales numbers, or just, well, in our case, asking the company.
So Mirage just put in there. So do you contact the authors directly, or is it all through the company and you're just looking at their social media posts?
Most of it is through company. Yes, it's company to
Right.
company. It's just that authors authors prefer to be shielded by the publishers they work with. I understand those feelings, and I
Right.
proceed as as Japanese procedures go. So no issues over there.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's fair. That's totally fair.
Yeah, because if I remember correctly, like people who write like light novels and stuff are considered like not a bit eccentric by Japanese standards. So it's understandable why they would like to sort of keep that shit hidden.
Well, we've seen how light novel authors will wear masks or have their faces blurred out, or they do go to certain lengths not to involve their personal life with what they're doing.
Yeah, but I think it's the same with any creator. Like if you check at the video game scene, like the author of Nier Automata goes into interview with a huge mask on his head. Like obviously there's a bunch of eccentric people as creators, but it's not all that, I think. But in the end, like they're just people doing a job.
Terrence, you wanted to ask a little bit about the how the partnership with Overlap came about, and sort of how these particular titles got picked.
Yeah. So how did your partnership with Overlap come about, and what was that experience like?
Well, I mean, what I can say is limited, but it was one of the options that I was recommended to approach. Like I was recommended a bunch of companies. Overlap was one of them, and clearly the most welcoming out of them all. Like all of them were welcoming, of course, but ones more than others. And the one who was the most generous and most open to actually work with us was them at that moment, and that's how it went basically. That's how I decided to go with them.
Yeah, if I can follow up a little bit. So I was going to ask about the licenses. Were these licenses, were they particular books you were familiar with before licensing, or were they suggested titles from the Japanese publisher side?
Neither of those. I got a list from Overlap when I contacted them. We started talking, and he said, well, you could take care of these titles. And then they gave me a list. Of course, I gave them ideas because I had some titles in mind, but they gave me a list too.
Yeah.
And these two books were not in the list, actually. I just happened to be browsing into the novels they had released, and those two caught my eye. I realized they weren't taken by any publisher, and that's how I came to it. Like the first thing I saw was the cover for both. It's what first strikes you, right? Like you see the cover, you see, damn, this looks good, right? But then you have to do the study of, well, will people like this? Like I like this, but will people like this? Is the story good? I read both in Naruto because both are in Naruto. in Japanese. I
Right.
read both, like the equivalent of like 3 volumes or something. I got an idea of what the stories were, and they weren't isekai. So I was like, yes, please. Give me one.
Now, okay. Now, is that because you think isekai is oversaturated, or do you think the market is turning, especially in English, do you think the market is turning against isekai? Like, what's sort of your intuitive feeling of that, having worked for different companies and now having your own?
The market is oversaturated, first of all. Everyone and their mother does isekai. So it's like, man, just imagine we go out as a new publisher. Oh, yay, a new publisher. And then here, read our exciting new isekai. And then, oh my God, another isekai. Like, damn. Like, I'm happy for the new publisher, but really, another isekai? That's just how I felt. Like, how do
Right.
people take this, you know? I think it's just everyone does isekai. There are companies that already specialize in doing isekai. I mean, J-Novel doesn't specialize in isekai, but does isekai way better. And I think,
Oh, they do tons of isekai.
yeah, and
Yeah.
and the options that I had available back then, they weren't bad isekais, but I thought, it was just another one. It's just, well, I mean, yeah, it's cool,
Right.
Yeah,
but
because
just,
if like for example, if you look at like anime, like during the 70s and 80s, and like mecha like dominated like the anime industry. Like yes, there was other stuff going on, but most of it was mecha. Like you had Aura Battler. I think it was Aura Battler. I forgot Dunver or something.
Dunbine.
Yeah, Dunbine.
Dunbine.
Yeah.
Dunbine,
You had like Ideon, Makuros, Gundam, like, and you had all these other, like, I think Pat Labor and all these like mecha shows. Like, I like mecha. I'm a big fan of mecha, but you can kind of see how the oversaturation did turn people away from mecha.
Well, it's never really recovered all that much. I mean, there's still some, but it's nowhere near what it became, what it was. That's for sure. So so like talking about genres and everything else, that kind of leads us into Jean-Luc. You want to ask about that?
Yeah, like you just said that. Well, isekai is dead. Well, it's not dead, but in your book. But like, is there another specific genre or niche light novel that you want to tackle?
well, I mean, it definitely isekai is not out of the book. They sell well for a reason. It's just that I wanted to take a different approach. Plus, I prefer other genres myself. I mean, comedy romance is one of my favorites, so that's why I had to take this one. But I mean, if you look at Diner of the Exile, I mean, to be completely honest, it doesn't say isekai. It's just that, like, the only difference with that and isekai is that the character was born in that world, and that's it. It didn't get run over by a truck and then got into a new world. But yeah, like that's the difference, I guess, which makes it a non-isekai, but still pretty close because it has the mechanics of an RPG game and that stuff. But in terms of niche genres, I really hope side character works out. It is my favorite genre of them all, by far, and I would love to bring more titles related to that. Yes, because they are, like I said before, they're just other companies who already tackle some genres better, and I would rather not. If I mean, of course, it doesn't mean it's out of the table, but I would rather be unique in how we do titles. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's that sort of thing. Like, of course, I like fantasy. I like, as much as I hate it, some isekais are good. They are very good. I like them.
Yeah, it's just that I think we're seeing a lot of not garbage isekai, but some really fast written ones.
It seems like they're being brought out because they're an isekai, not because
They're good.
somebody is like,
Yeah.
wow, this is a great
Yeah.
book that
Like,
we have to have in the English market.
Yeah, exactly.
If I was to use like an example, like one of my favorite isekai series that sort of like come out in the last couple of years was like Realist Hero. Like there's like something about the book series, and it's not just in a like. Because like one of the things I really like about it is that like the guy like references like history and philosophy a lot, like, and you can kind of tell like the author really does care about these things, and I think it just makes it better, when an author actually tries to put effort. I mean, in the latest books, they're trying to like flesh out the world and figure out how shit works, and like it's less about the action, but more about like the exchanging of ideas and culture. And
the mechanics, right? It's more about explaining
Yeah.
rather than going into the action.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
sometimes
and that's
like
what I like about it, because like when I read the aftermath, like, you know, I'm like, this is a guy who actually cares about his work. This is a guy who cares. And this is a guy who wants to tell, like, a good story. Like, he doesn't want to tell the isekai guy who got run over by a truck, you know, becomes a hero, slays demon and pussy, and then, like, goes home.
it's more like nowadays, like isekai seems like most of them don't need to be an isekai. It could be just a fantasy book, and it would be good as a fantasy. But sometimes I think
like some of these worlds that these authors come up with is like really fascinating, and like some of them I'm just like, man, this would be really great if they just fleshed this out a bit more.
Well, that all said, I mean, I personally was glad to see that you were coming out with a romance comedy, slice of life, school life, because that is definitely it is funny to me that is such a massive component of what we get released in anime and manga, and yet light novels, I could count on one hand the number of school life romance comedies that we've gotten.
Like
it just
exactly.
It's really surprising. Like, it's really surprising to me that is such an underserved market. And like I said, I mean, you start talking about some of the biggest series that have come out, and lots of like, take a look. I mean, how much series are just school life, basically? Like, I mean, I'm glad to see that that is definitely something that you're aiming for, and I'm glad to hear that it's not just because you think that it's underserved, but because you actually love it. That's pretty awesome too.
Oh yeah, I never get tired of watching anime in that way. Like, I was going to say that actually. It's just that it's so weird to see that this is like the genre that gets spammed the most in anime by far, and then there's no light novels about this, which is weird.
Right.
But then again, I mean, it's a great thing, you know, because it means there is more content out there than, because people thought, oh, well, this is all light novels can offer, just fantasy and isekai. No, like there's way more stuff out there that really deserves the attention of people. And I'm obsessed with this genre. So
okay, so let's hope side character does well, and because then we can get some more. I'm all for that.
Yes, indeed. And from the illustrator is amazing. So hopefully, like, it's just that it sounds awful, but I guide myself more on illustration sometimes rather than story. And I know it shouldn't be like that, but I do like my illustrations in my books to be good. So,
well, but you know what though? Here's the thing. When it comes to light novels in particular, I do kind of think sometimes that the art is sort of where you start in terms of what you think of the book, because I mean, when you have a novel that has great artwork that really suits the book, then you're kind of like, somebody's taking care of this, right? Like, that's how I see it.
Yeah, indeed.
I kind of like, if they went out and hired a great artist whose work really complements this book and this genre, then that means somebody wants this to succeed. Somebody wants to like invest some effort into this, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It feels like the story inside is going to be good because the artwork is amazing. And maybe it won't be, but it just feels that way because they put such quality and effort and paid an illustrator to do it. You hope that the content inside equals it.
Well, and like I said, that with the artwork, like, you know, taking a look at, say, you know, side character, right? I mean, that the girls are so cute on the cover. The one girl is so cute on the cover, and the little bits of interior color artwork that you've posted. I mean, like, that is, I mean, when you're thinking about a romance comedy school life, like, that is exactly the style of art that you would want to see, whether it be an anime, a manga, you know what I mean? Like, to me, that's like, okay, we're hiring a legit artist that's totally right for this book. And to me, that's like, immediately when I look at that, I think, oh yeah, I want to check that out. Because it means somebody's actually sitting there in the marketing department going, you know what, this deserves good work, right?
Indeed.
I don't know. maybe I'm seeing it the wrong way, but that's sort of how it appears to me, right? Like, you take a look at other titles that have really unique and awesome artwork, like, the Overlord series, right? I mean, obviously you look at that and you're like, somebody was like, we need to hire an artist who can really evoke the feeling of these books.
Exactly.
Yeah, and so like I said, you take a look at Side Character. To me, that's like such a classic, exactly what a rom-com art should look like.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to say the story is bad, by the way. It's just this story is very good, in my opinion. I liked it. So, but yeah,
all right, well,
both the story and the illustrations are very good, I think, and it shows indeed.
Well, we'll be checking it out. Don't you worry.
Nice, it's good, very good to hear.
Now I think we've kind of talked about. So Terrence, you were also going to ask, sort of like, I don't think we'll worry about the mix because I think Alex has kind of talked about that. But you were going to ask about like size of series, length of series.
Oh yeah. So would single volume works be something you'd have an interest in pursuing? Are completed series works something you'd like to look into too, or are ongoing series more desirable?
Single volumes, yes. I actually I was torn between doing these two single volumes actually at first, but they were too niche in my opinion. They wouldn't have worked at the beginning. Maybe in the future. In the future, I do definitely want to do single volumes, but my approach is weird. I want to do otome single volumes.
Oh,
Yeah, they are amazing. Like some of them are very, very good and deserve more attention than they have right now. About completed series, yes. I'd rather do, honestly, I would rather do completed series rather than ongoing, just because ongoing ones are gambles, unless we're talking about a series of 15 volumes. That it's gonna end sometime soonish, maybe not, but it's heading towards an end already, and you more or less know how's it going. All those are rare to find now because there's a lot of competition, but there's still quite a lot out there. And yeah, I mean, I would rather take completed series personally because I know there's an end. I know I can deliver the full story to the audience, and that's why I want in the end, right? I would rather, like, as much as it hurts, these two series might get axed. I don't think they will because they are selling very well over there. But there's always a chance, like with everything, and that would like make me very sad because I'm not able to convey the entire story, which is something that a lot of people, it's just something that people don't like, and I personally wouldn't like it either. Like you do 5 volumes and then the series gets axed in Japan, and you're like, man, I want to read more of that, and it's a downer. But it's like TLDR is that I'd rather have completed series. Single volumes, I would like to do in the future, if possible.
Now, that kind of leads into a question that Mirage had. When we're talking about series that end up ending as far as the Japanese publisher is concerned, but then like on Naru, you've got multiple volumes. The story might even be complete. Now, I mean, obviously, you don't know what the future holds, but how does that work in terms of like? Do you, as a publisher, if the Japanese side is like, you know what, we're done with this, would you have the option to approach the author to see if you could continue the work, or is that kind of like a really no-go, like you shouldn't touch that with a 10-foot pole?
It is possible. The issue is that there's a couple of issues, which is it requires more effort because you have to create the book, which would mean we would have to do Japanese shenanigans, contacting the author, helping him to do like proofs, this and that. Then we'll have to contact the illustrator too, because have to keep,
because you'd have to continue the artwork.
No, it's possible. It just requires too much stuff, and a large investment. You need to know that it's getting back, and I don't really have the means. Like if I wanted to do it now, I wouldn't be able to, because there's no means for that, But yeah, I mean, if we see there's enough people that want to see the series badly, then maybe we could, get an idea. But in the end, it also depends on the wishes of the author. Maybe the author doesn't want to get contacted by an external publisher, even if it's the publisher that has been publishing their works in other languages. Like maybe they don't care, maybe he doesn't care. Maybe he just wants to deal with Japanese publishers and that's it, which is understandable. So
okay,
it depends.
Fair enough.
And in the end, it's just about respecting the wishes of the author and the means that we have to produce those kinds of books. So, long story short, I would rather avoid that possibility. At least now.
No, I understand that. Huh. All right. Now, I mean, is this now? Obviously, I mean, you're bringing out newer titles right now, but down the road, you start doing well. You're looking at other series. Would you be looking at picking up even like older series titles that have been sort of lost by the wayside, or series that finished maybe 2000, early 2000s, mid 2000s that have not been picked up? Like, would you go for older series, or do you want to stay more with the newer stuff?
Demon Sea Blues, Demon Sea Blues, Demon Sea Blues, Demon Sea Blues, Demon Sea Blues.
Scrap Princess, Scrap Princess, Scrap Princess.
Dude, Demon Sea Blues is written by the same guy who did Vampire Dean. It's awesome.
I mean,
also Sayu and Legend of the Dragon Kings was written by the same dude who did Legend of the Galactic Heroes.
Okay. No pressure, Alex. I mean, obviously nobody wants that to happen, but
at the moment, I don't know. Maybe if we have the chance, sure. I just don't know. No, like I said, I guide myself with art first.
Right.
If I see that it caught my attention, then yes. If it doesn't caught my attention, then no. Those older series tend to be on the no side. There are some that do actually. You gave me some titles in the mail with the questions. I think one of them actually caught my attention. But again, in the end, for now, I'm taking the decisions on what to license. But in the future, it'll be more than just me who decides those things. And I hope more people who are more open to the idea come to the table and we can discuss.
Like, the reason why I say that there's a lot of like shows like they have like like This Is a Zombie, like the books are actually not that half bad, and it's like it's a completed series, and I want to see what freaking happens because the anime, it doesn't cover like any more of the content. I'm just like and there's like some shows that are written by like these authors, like the guy who does Vampire D, like he's made like a bunch of shit. Now granted, some of his works can be a bit of like a mixed bag, but I think he's a really good fucking horror author. Like the way how he writes horror and how he like describes things, like it makes you feel like you're there. Like he does a very good job of like painting a picture, and he shows you how creepy and terrifying the supernatural are. Not because they're terrifying or creepy, but what their presence does to normal people.
I'm surprised some of these titles haven't been taken yet. What? Are you telling me that the Testament of Sister New Devil hasn't been taken? Okay, that's weird. Data Live is neither? What? Okay. I'm legit being surprised here by what I'm saying. I mean, if this is true, then I might be more open. I mean, yeah.
Sure. Well, I mean, prepare yourself for a wave if you ever open up to like suggestions from people.
I mean, no, like I always
brace yourself.
I'm always open to suggestions. In fact, I do want suggestions from people, but I want people to understand that our capabilities are limited. Like we are a very small company. And
I'm not asking you to like translate everything on my wish list, but like at least like check out these titles. Because like these titles are good. Okay. Like they like some of these people are written by like actual authors, and I don't mean light novels aren't authors, but like proper authors. Like
most of these actually, there's many here that I'm honestly surprised they haven't been taken. There must be a reason. That's the only thing I can think of. There must be a reason why some of these aren't taken yet. But
some of these are. I think some of these would be really good in the English market, like Demon City Blues. It's a very like urban, supernatural, so not noir, but it has like that sort of like style to it. Like if I'll show you some of the art because like basically, I'll show you some of the art for some of the books later. But it's very like you look at some of the art in the books, it's like wow, this looks awesome. Like it's very like stylized. It's very 90s.
Like,
I think Bio's angling for a job to be the sort of suggestion guy on your.
I mean,
Yeah, he wants to work in marketing.
I'm always asking my friends, and nobody says anything because they don't know what a light novel is. So I'm always left with,
Oh
well,
no,
whatever.
that's awful.
Yeah, I'll just choose myself. But I mean, like I
Well,
said,
that's how.
I'm open, very open to people actually recommending me stuff. I know more or less the way I want to go for now, but I do
Yeah.
want suggestions. Of course, people have to understand that we're very small. But like I say, if things go well, then of course I'm open to anything. Like, yeah, of course.
Yeah, it's well. I mean, that I understand exactly what you mean. I mean, that's half the reason I started the whole YouTube thing and this podcast and everything else, because I had no one to talk about light novels with either. Like, I was feeling deprived. Like, speaking of, like, now, okay, so when we're talking about surveys, when we're talking about feedback from fans and everything else, I know, Jean-Luc, you wanted to ask something about that.
Well, Alex, in the beginning, you said that like the Spanish audience for light novel was pretty much non-existent. Like if we look at like Crunchyroll does every year like a survey on what kind of anime is the most popular in each country, and sometimes when you check like North America versus European versus Asia, like there's a lot of difference in what's popular. Like even if light novel is not that big yet in Spanish, do you see a difference in what the fan like are most excited about versus like in the English market?
In terms of anime, I guess, yeah, like the Spanish side, it's very conservative. So they like their classics. Things don't really change that much. Like, you're always going to see FMAB at the top, Code Geass, classics everyone watches. But No Game No Life is another one, for example. And for light novels, there is an annual survey in Spain about what light novels people want, and um, since there's nothing translated, everyone wants the best stuff, which is No Game No Life, Classroom of the Elite, the big stuff. In terms of Spanish light novels, English light novels, the difference is clear. In terms of English light novels, I don't really know. I know English people are ahead of the curve when it comes to watching anime, at least here. I'm not going to say Europe because I don't know European trends. I'm going to say here in Spain. They are way ahead of us in terms of what they watch. They are more in sync with Japan than Spain. And that really reflects on I think the likes and the dislikes of other genres like manga and light novels. But then again, light novels are still very young. I don't think the isekai genre, for example, is like at all extinguished. It is still going very strong, and it's gonna be the same thing. It's gonna go by waves. But
Now, I mean, Mirage is asking, as a for instance, like if you could go after a license that we have in English but is not available in Spanish. I mean, I guess the bigger question, the question is like, could you even do that? And B, I guess the bigger question is, would you even do that, or are you really committed to the idea that everything you bring out, you want to do both?
Oh no,
English and Spanish.
Oh my God, no! Like, this is the first and hopefully the last time I make the mistake of bringing things on two languages at the same time. It is a huge commitment. It actually strained me more than I thought it would. But, well, I mean, it's my mistake for taking over work that I shouldn't be taking, but that's how things go right now. And it's just like a lot of things you have to coordinate two teams at the same time, so you have releases at the same exact time, and that is really hard. And I wouldn't do it. I would rather do English releases and then separately like Spanish releases on the other side, like when not at the same dates, but each one to their own schedule.
Right.
That's what we hopefully do in the future, because this thing of releasing two languages at the same time was a mistake. I do admit, it's a lot of work.
Right. Now, would you license a title just for Spanish release or just for English release?
Yes, indeed.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Well, that's interesting to know. Okay, cool. So, now I know Bio Gundam kind of had the question here, and I think it's just kind of a general thing, and I'll paraphrase it because I like to put this out there to the world too. Now, obviously with licensing, you can't discuss specific deals, not asking for that. But just so our listeners know and everybody knows, when you're licensing a light novel, the author is benefiting by your sales, right?
I sure hope so. I mean, most of the deals that the authors make with Japanese publishers, they always decide a split or a fixed payment.
Right.
In this case, I assume it's a split. I haven't asked myself.
Well, the reason I say this is because, piracy is becoming a hot topic, and I'm not going to make that argument in this particular podcast, but,
no problem.
There's very valid arguments for both sides, but, what I've always asked, all right, let's take the morality out of it. What I've always asked is, I know that companies can't exactly display what they're making as far as money goes, but what I've always wanted to ask is, how much of a percentage is going to the authors? I want cold hard facts. Is it 5%, 10%? That.
I wish I could tell you. I don't know. It depends on company. It depends on author. It depends on series. It changes over time.
Right.
It's all a matter of
popularity.
That's the reason why I bring it up, is because a lot of these arguments about the piracy thing, what I'm more concerned about is what exactly is the percentage of these authors are getting, because I have my pirate hat on sometimes, I'll admit it, but there's also series that I buy, on my bookshelf behind me, I've got plenty of manga and stuff like that I buy because, hey, I like these people's works and I like to support it. I've got Komi-san, I've got Auron, I've got freaking Chobits, I've got Ghost in the Shell.
But I hope that doesn't happen with our titles.
No. But I think the thing that we try to impress upon people is that, even if it's not that every copy of an English or a translated light novel is still benefiting the author financially, because whether it's a deal that somehow your money is being split between the Japanese publisher and the author, whether the Japanese author and the publisher have made that deal, whatever, when it boils down to it, the end result is the money that we as English-speaking an audience or a Spanish-speaking audience pay you for a book, some of that money is still ending up in the pocket of the author.
Oh yeah, of course.
Okay, thank you. That's what I wanted to know. Thank you.
Yeah. Overlap does biannual contests for authors, for newcoming authors, for example. Right. And there's tons of people who apply every year, if there was injustice with them paying authors what they don't, something they do not deserve, not many people would apply to those kinds of contests. But there's a lot of people who apply, and these two, actually, the ones we took, come from those contests. They got first.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they got first place in their respective contests, which is something I discovered not so long ago, actually. But back when they debuted, they got first place in their respective contests, and yeah, I mean, I don't think authors would apply to those kinds of things. They would rather apply for other companies, someone wouldn't willfully just enter some place saying, well, I know I'm going to be underpaid and given a bad contract, but it's a chance, I mean, there's people who
listen, I've heard some I've heard some pretty dodge ass stories, okay? But the reason why I ask is because I don't have those contacts in Japan. All the information I'm getting is secondhand from a friend to a friend. It's from a Western audience, an English speaking perspective. It's very hard to get the deep lore on what's going on.
Well, from what I know, at least Overlap treats their authors well, and there's not an issue.
Excellent. That's all I need to know.
At least the ones we are working with, they no complaints, and everyone has their share, so I don't think there's an issue. There's no mistreatment.
I think a lot of that argument starts coming out of the anime community too, right? Is because the idea is, who are you really supporting? Are you supporting the anime committee that created the anime? If you're buying a DVD, who's getting the money? Are you supporting the production company and all this kind of stuff? And I think that really muddies the waters. And I don't think people quite realize that with print material like manga and light novels, it's a very different situation because there is only one creator that is creating this stuff. And so there is money directly funneling to them by international audiences buying international editions.
Like
So-
Overlap is a gigantic company too. Like Overlap is not small by any means. And I mean, it is in their interest to treat their authors and the people who work for them well. I mean, otherwise they would have no business at all, And word spreads fast in Japan. Like word spreads fast in general. So
right.
yeah.
All right.
The LDR is that your money does get to the author, basically. I know for a fact. It's just if I cannot tell you how much of a percentage because I personally don't know.
I get it. Like it's like fine. Like obviously they won't tell like the exact number, but like I get it. But like the fact that you say that is great because I pay attention to these like arguments and I like basically try and say like listen like. Because a couple of my buddies might have the same argument, like we don't exactly know like the exact percentage or what goes where. Because really, listen, money talks and bullshit walks. So as far as I'm concerned, I need.
But I think Alex has a good point, right? Like an author who wins a competition and gets a publishing deal, their percentage that they're getting paid per book is very different than what Reiki Kawahara is getting paid.
Yep.
Right? Because Reiki Kawahara's got the name recognition. He's already proven that every series he puts out is going to sell hundreds of thousands, if not millions of copies. So obviously when Reiki Kawahara sits down to sign a contract, he's like, yeah, you're paying me good money or not. Right. And so, I mean, Alex is absolutely right. Like the publishing world, depending on how things go, it can be different. And even an author who brings a new series out, they may only have a contract for 5 books. The 5 books sell phenomenally well, then it's renegotiated their contract because the company wants to keep putting books out. And the author's like, well, hey, I've already proven that I've got good stuff, so you're going to pay me a little more. So it can change over time too. Yeah.
Indeed.
So yeah, I mean, trying to nail down specific percentages is almost impossible, but just the idea is, yes, the authors make money. That's what.
And that's why I need to know. Thank you.
Yeah.
The crux of the issue is that they do get their cash. Like Japanese publishers do care a lot about sales and their audience, either if it's in Japan.
Well, obviously
or
they're a company; they need to sell product and shit. But the reason why I asked that is I've heard some dodgy stories, and obviously I can't like validate. Like I don't know the validity of these stories, but
Well,
it happens I'm just
I guess it happens everywhere.
It happens everywhere, but for me, it's just like. I don't believe it, but I'm gonna keep that. I'm just gonna make sure I keep an eye on that because that sounds suspect.
So, Alex, I think we've grilled you for over an hour here. So,
okay, now time to bail on routine.
I'm still fresh.
You're still good. I'm glad. Well, you know what? No, but I mean, it is really cool to sort of hear a little bit about the background and stuff, and sort of see a company that's brand new coming out of the gate, and hopefully we can watch you turn into a major player in this market. I know that's kind of, we all hope for that. That's the one thing as fans, right? We want to have more stuff. So the more people bring in stuff, the better we think it is.
And by all means, I mean, I chose the titles I think people would like anyway. So I hope that translates too, because it's been a long process, because figuring out the best physicals, it's been difficult, especially that one. Like the issue with these kinds of things is that when your public is international, like the biggest issue is people want physicals, but importing physicals from other country is super expensive.
Yeah, because you got like shipping and stuff, and like postage, and like it's a lot of red tape.
Yeah, it's a mess. I mean, I'm not gonna say any names, but since most of the companies of light novels are in America, like if you live in Europe, for example, like the issue with European light novel fans that they get limited access to them because they only have a few places they can pick them. from. And if they want to bring them
Right.
from America, it costs
Yeah, and
20
also
bucks.
if they don't like get their light novel reading license renewed every couple of months, they won't be able to read them.
Yeah, exactly. You know, like even if it's high quality, imagine just paying 50 bucks for shipping instead of the book, right? It's just unconceivable for me.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, because there's a lot of shit I want to buy on fucking Amazon, but damn, is it fucking expensive? Like, it would be cheaper for me, like, because like in New Zealand, like we have like some light novels and manga and anime, but not as much as like the Americans get. Like the amount like the Americans get, like I would say, like we get like maybe like 1/10 of what the Americans get. Like I would say like 1/10 is probably like a fair accurate statement, like around about 1/10. Okay, like it's not that I can't afford it. It's just like, man, if I get this, man, I'm not going to be eating for a week. So
I was just going to say, I mean, I understand exactly what you're saying. I mean, well, we can see because of the whole COVID-19, we know the publishers that publish in North America because they all had to delay their books because of shutdowns in the U.S. I can see where the logistics of that can be a big deal. Now, I mean, I'll grill you a little bit longer since you said you're fresh. But
No problem. Go ahead. I'm ready.
So, I mean, I know you're talking about doing print editions. Because I know you've said during this talk that Spain, that is a big deal, as having those print editions available. But I know you've also been talking about doing them for English. Now, are you looking to get them actually printed at a company and then you're going to ship them to the distributors? Or are you looking at more like, I believe Cross Infinite World does like a print on demand via Amazon or via Ingram, like one of those other companies.
That's difficult to like. If you don't mind a long explanation, I can explain. Basically, the print on demand is impossible for us because Japan doesn't like print on demand. You have to print a certain number of copies. I'm not going to release physicals in Spanish either. They are only in English for the moment.
Oh, okay.
But they do have the Spanish standard that I'm used to. They are
right.
I intend them to be higher quality than the American counterparts. I don't think they are bad quality, but they are, in my opinion, significantly better. The idea is like the standard book. The book you would get in America is just that, it has the soft cover, it has the extra merch, it has extra content that doesn't exist in the digital version. That's the idea.
Right.
Like, we want to make our book special. The extra content, which is the extra stories of the side character, for example, only exist in the physical version right now. They only existed physically in Japan, and depending on which store you ordered the book from, you got a different story. And we managed to compile them all into a single book. We managed to get them all.
Wow, that's nice.
Yeah. Like most
nice.
overlap titles that do well actually get these extra stories, and it's just a matter of asking them. It's a little bit of a bother, but it's like, imagine like having 30 pages extra of content, like, which is like, it's close to 30 pages extra of content actually. And
wow.
Even though it's consequential to the story, I think it's content people would like to see, and it makes the
I agree.
special. It makes them heavier, it makes them better. IMO.
Right.
And yeah, the issue is, as you say, do I print them? Do I outsource? Yes, I outsource to a printer in Spain called Safecat. They are the biggest printer in Madrid. They work with. Do any of you know Planeta, Panini, any of those companies?
Nope.
No, I'm not familiar with them. Sorry.
Well, they are gigantic Spanish publishers for other stuff. They do mangas. They are like the kings of manga in Spanish.
Okay.
Are you printing them in the US? No, I'm printing in Europe, in Spain.
Yeah.
I'll get to the pricing later. But yeah, we're using like the printer with the best reputation, because that way we know prints are coming out, that there's nothing being delayed, that kind of stuff.
Right. Right. Well, I mean, it's a lot easier for you to maintain quality control when they're in your same.
Yeah, exactly.
In your same country, right?
Like I had an idea of printing also in America. The issue is that I'm not physically in America, and I cannot tell if the books are good there. Plus, the books producing books in America is so expensive. Like it is so expensive compared to producing books here. It is like incredible. It's like,
Well, this printing talk is just making me think of Sopress has had a lot of trouble with printing too in America, so I don't know.
Well, I think it's well, I mean, obviously the companies that are printing in America for the most part is, your Yen Press, your Seven Seas, companies that have a very long history, like,
Yeah.
going back almost 20 years of putting out print in America. They've obviously got the company they deal with, right? Like that's,
Yeah.
and it's not like any of them are going to say, hey, if you like our books, this is who we use. Like that's not really going to happen. So yeah, I can get that. So then, Alex, so then I guess you're printing then in Spain, and what are you going to do? Like just because I know Amazon will warehouse for some books in the U.S. Is that kind of the route you're looking?
No, actually, no. I thought about Amazon at first. It's just the issue with Amazon in general. I will offer it in Europe, the Amazon.
Yeah.
The issue with Amazon is that it just costs a lot to ship already the books to America. It would be counterproductive to ship over there and then sell on Amazon. It's just not worth. So, but at the same time, I think that not offering that on America would be bad because you wouldn't like to pay $1 million for each book, right? So that's why I delayed the books partially because I'm closing a contract with the biggest distributor here in Spain, and we have very good pricing for international countries. Anything outside Europe is very well priced. If you don't mind me pulling the sheet real quick right here. Here. For international, we would probably price each book for $2.99 or $3.99. The ship.
So that's going to be the digital?
No, the shipping of the physical, basically.
Oh, to ship it.
Shipping costs.
Yeah. The shipping cost of physicals to any country outside of Europe would be, I think, $3.99, $4.99 max. So it is more worth than Amazon, and it takes less time than Amazon in America. I know it requires people to go to our store, which is something I understand. I want to get the books to retailers as soon as I can. It's just that I'm still, discussing with retailers. It'll take time.
Right.
I want to do it. It's just it takes a lot of time to nail these things out. And until then, I want to offer the best option for shipping. And I think, it's better than paying $20 for shipping. It's just like $4, right? So I think it's worth.
So initially, you are looking to expand, but initially, if people want to pick up the print edition of these, they'll have to buy it from your website.
Indeed, basically.
Right. Okay.
It's not a bad option.
I think the pricing is affordable. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like that.
Okay. Yeah. No. Absolutely. We'll check it out. So then, and then the digital copies, though, those ones are being released basically wide. Like you've got them Amazon.
Yeah. Everything except Bookwalker for now because we're still,
negotiating with Bookwalker.
It'll take time. Yeah, it'll take time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I've looked at Bookwalker. They do. There is a bit more negotiating with them to sell stuff than they are necessarily with other people.
Yeah, indeed.
So,
although again, in our website we will have the EPUBs, the PDFs at max res, so you can pick it up from there, no issues.
Right, perfect.
Yeah, it helps us. It helps us way more than just buying from Amazon. Everyone knows this, but it is.
Yeah.
It makes a difference. It does make a difference.
Oh yeah, no, obviously. Okay, so then. For then the listeners here, so on May 29th, we have you guys premiering your first edition digitally, and that's There's No Way a Side Character Like Me Could Be Popular, right? So that's going to be available on your website, and then you said it's also going to be available then on like Amazon. It'll be on like what? Amazon, Kobo,
Google Books, and Barnes and Noble.
And Barnes and Noble. Okay, perfect. And then, maybe down the road Bookwalker, but that's just taking its time to get that all set up.
Yeah, it's like
all right, fantastic.
Basically, it's like Book Depository. Like I know people want, is that we will need more physicals for that.
All right. Okay, fair enough. All right. So then, To all the listeners, too, if you want to find out more information about Tentai books, you can go to tentaibooks.com. I'll have a link in the description or for this podcast, either on our website and on the YouTube channel as well. Alex, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it. It's been really interesting.
Thank you, guys. I hope I can come another day.
Oh, you know what? We'll find a way to get you here. Don't worry.
Don't worry. We'll just tell him where the Spanish gold is hidden.
Oh, come on! Enough. We'll just invite him over one day when we're maybe we'll tell him what we think of his book. I don't know. We'll figure something out. You know what, Alex? Well, maybe what we'll do is we'll have you back for your year anniversary, and we can see how things are going and see how things are happening for you, or have you back when you announce a couple new books. We'll figure it out.
That sounds amazing.
But in the meantime, yeah, man. But in the meantime, good luck. I hope it goes phenomenally well for you. I know that I'm definitely want to check out both of the titles that you've brought out because I'm all up for a new slice of life, and I did a little peek at the manga of Diner of the Exiled, and it looks like it's hitting a lot of good boxes for me, so I definitely want to check that one out as well. All right, so again, thank you, Alex, for joining us. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here, and thank you, listeners, for joining us. And check out Tentai Books, their offerings, and let us know what you think. So join us for our next episode when, well, I don't know what we're going to do. Every time we've planned it, we've come up with a new idea. So I think we're going to talk about my next life as a villainess. I think that's kind of the plan.
I thought this was the plan.
Baccarina.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Baccarina is the plan, but the plans change because sometimes cool things come up. So in any case, thank you very much for listening. Until next time, bye-bye for now. For show notes and related links, visit lightnovelpodcast.com.